everybody. Welcome to my dock and the outdoors. I am going to be doing a Fit with Kelly today that is focused on core work, a little bit of strength and mobility. So I am representing Blazing Paddles today. So I just got done with their event a couple weeks ago. It was a 10-mile paddle. I actually happened to be an ambassador for this event, and I decided that I wanted to do something that was very focused on paddle fitness, but don't turn it off if you're not into kayaking or stand-up paddleboarding, because the stuff I'm gonna be doing out on the dock, if you wanna get started in core strength and mobility, you can do this right along with me. But one of the things that the organizers of Blazing Paddles noticed was that people struggle to do certain things. So getting into and out of their kayak from a dock. For some people, I've noticed as a stand-up paddleboard instructor that standing up on the paddleboard can be really difficult for some people. And the reason that people struggle with those things, generally because either tightness, so it's hip mobility, knee mobility, ankle mobility, and a lot of times for things like carrying your kayak, carrying your paddleboard, getting into your kayak from the dock, it's upper body strength that's lacking. So the workout today is going to focus on some of those key areas of strength and mobility. So we'll go ahead and get started. I do have my little piece of paper over here with my workout on it. But this is actually something that I'd like to do on my paddleboard by myself. So if you see me kind of have to think about it a little bit, that's probably why. So this is normally something that I just kind of allow to flow. And sometimes I'm just making it up as I go along, but I do have a plan for today. Just FYI, I'm gonna be doing one round on the dock, and then I'm gonna be doing another round on the paddleboard for those of you who wanna see it on the paddleboard and wanna give it a try yourself. Also, I'm gonna be doing pretty much 5 reps through everything. So if you're just working on getting the movements down, just kind of remember that you're doing 5 of each thing. If it's a single-sided thing, we're gonna be doing 5 each way. So we'll go ahead and get started. You don't necessarily have to have a paddle for this. Just for the first exercise is a little bit about upper body mobility, getting the back warmed up. So I usually start and I'm gonna sweep down, back overhead, push back, sweep down, back overhead. There was one. Make sure you're breathing. Every time that I push back on the paddle, I'm trying to get a little farther behind me, getting in some of that shoulder mobility. If you've never done anything like this before, it might actually feel like you're getting a bit of a workout. If you're used to working out, this can be great to do for your off days. All right, I feel a little bit warmed up there. It's pretty warm outside today. I'm gonna put my paddle down. We're not really gonna need that for most of our workout or most of our mobility exercises. So we're gonna start with just reaching down. And again, I'll be doing this on the paddleboard too. So a little slightly wider stance, maybe a little wider than your shoulders. Reaching down. I'm very tight today in my hamstrings and in my calves. So again, this is gonna make it really difficult for people to stand up on their paddleboard when they're very tight through the back of the leg. So reaching down, try to keep the legs as straight as possible, doing the fingertips. If you have to bend your knees a little bit here, that's okay too. You can't force that stretch. And then we're just gonna stand up, roll the shoulders back, back down, stretch, roll the shoulders back, standing up. Every time you reach down, try to drop a little bit further. So if you were touching fingertips at first, you're gonna try to get to the first joint in the fingertips. Standing up, roll the shoulders back. I'll also say that If you can breathe out, so deep breath out as you're going downward, that actually helps you deepen that stretch. Now we're gonna do a walkout. So hands are gonna go down. You're gonna walk all the way out to plank and all the way back to standing, stand all the way up. You're gonna reach and wrap your arms around and then go the other way. Reach and wrap. Back down, stretch, feel that stretch. Hold in plank for a second. All the way back up. Wrap around, giving yourself that little bit of a hug so you're getting that stretching through the spine. Walk it out again. So we're also working on upper body and core strength while we're doing these walkouts. Wrap around, nice stretch, wrap around. One more time. Walking out, trying to keep those legs as straight as possible. I'm starting to feel nice and stretched out in the back side of the body. All right, things are gonna get a little bit more intense for the upper body now, so we're gonna work a little bit more on strength. We're gonna do another walkout, and now we are going to incorporate a T-plank. So we do our walkout, we're gonna do a T-plank. If you're able to hold this position, you're gonna bring your hand behind, then you're gonna swing that arm forward, nice stretch through the side to the other side. Everything should be very slow and intentional. Swing that arm up, push the hips forward, reach, back down. We're gonna go into a little push-up and you're gonna walk it all the way back to standing. Little stretch here. Roll it out a little bit. We're gonna do it again. Walking out. T-plank. Hand goes behind the back. Push the hips forward, swing the arm, stretch, hand down, T-plank, hand behind, hips forward, reach, hand down, push up, walking it back up. So you can see we're building that upper body. Back down again, walk it out. And again, if this is a little too advanced, do fewer. Swing that arm, down, other side. Swing the arm, hips forward, hand down, push up. You can always go down to your knees for those push-ups, pushing back. I think we have one more for 5. Again, this is something I do on my own, and a lot of times I'll just do as many as I feel like I need that day. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 8. Swing the arm up over, hand down, opposite side. Push the hips forward, reach over, hand down, push up, walking it back up. So at this point, you may need a little bit of a breather. We're gonna go into a down dog sequence. Again, we're gonna be working on upper body strength. We're also gonna be working a little bit more here on calf flexibility. So You'll see what I'm about to do. We're gonna do yet another walkout. I know my clients love to hate these. So reaching down again, walking out. We're gonna do 5 plank to down dog. Please don't laugh at my down dog. I am not a yoga instructor. My body tends to be very tight. So if you're a yoga person, feel free to correct me because I'm probably not doing it right. So this is, again, working on your core strength. So we're in a moving plank and upper body strength. Now on your next one, you're gonna hold back here in down dog, and now we're gonna march it out. So every time I do this, I'm trying to get my heel a little closer to the deck. One more on each. Now we're gonna do calf raises. If your shoulders are getting tired, it's pretty normal. So I'm gonna come up onto those toes, back down. There's 2, 3, 4, 5. We're gonna step it forward instead of going backwards. We're gonna come to standing for a second. The standing part of this is our break. So now we're standing. We're gonna work a little bit on lower body mobility, so hip mobility, knees, and also some strength here. So what I will say about this type of mobility, we're talking about low squats. So you gotta meet yourself where your body is currently. So make sure that you are not overdoing the squat if your body's not ready for it. So you can always do a half squat. So we're gonna if you were on your paddleboard, you're gonna take your stance to about a little bit more than shoulder width. Again, we're reaching back down. Now I want you to, with your hands on the deck or on your board, I want you to sit. So again, if your knees and your hips don't do that yet, it's okay. Eventually we'll get you there. We're gonna do 5 of those. So butt back up in the air, try to get those legs as straight as possible. There's 2. There's 3. Can help if you look forward, try to straighten that back. 4. 5. All right, from there we're gonna stand back up. And now we're gonna do full on squats. So you won't necessarily put your hands on the deck or on your board. So just looking forward, try to squat down. I usually hang out here. This is a natural human position, so this is a functional movement. Everybody should be able to do this unless you have some sort of knee or joint issue. If you don't use it, you lose it. But again, this movement right here can help you go from sitting to standing on your paddleboard if you tend to struggle with that. I'm pushing my elbows against my knees here a little bit. We're gonna do 1 more. Standing back up. Thighs might be burning a little bit. We're doing a little bit of strength work there too. All right, now we're gonna do a step back into our plank, and we're gonna switch to a different circuit of exercises. So hands, I'm gonna step forward here just a little bit. Hands are going onto the deck again. And I'm gonna step back into my plank, and then I'm gonna come onto my knees. So we're gonna do something that's referred to as a bear crawl, but we're gonna be stationary here. So for a bear crawl, You want your knees stacked right underneath your hips, wrists underneath the shoulders. You're gonna lift your knees and hover, and you're gonna come back and then forward over your wrists. If you don't have enough core strength to do that, or if it's too hard, you can keep your knees on the deck and do the same thing. So for this sequence, we are eventually going to be coming into a lunge position. Again, if your knees, if you don't have a lot of functional movement yet, just be very aware of these movement patterns. Just be very aware of your body. If it's not ready for these, don't do them. Just do as much as you can. So we're gonna start with our bear crawl. We're gonna do 5. So hover those knees, push back into that squatted position, forward. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what you're gonna see me do on this next one is I'm gonna go back into this. This is like a launch position. And as I come forward, I'm gonna bring a foot forward and I'm gonna move my hand to make room for it. Again, if your body doesn't do that yet, that's okay. You can be on your knees and you can do this. It's a little bit easier. All right, so let's go back into our launch. We're gonna go launch back, forward. Now you gotta bring your foot back, other side. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I may have messed up my count because again, I most of the time do this without really even thinking much about it. Now on the next one, keep that lunge. Now the back foot, you're gonna turn it so that it's in a side position. And when you're on a paddleboard, this is definitely more challenging. You're gonna come into, this might be considered a warrior position. Now we're gonna do a lunge, trailing leg stays straight. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take your hands back to the deck, twist that foot around, back to straight arm plank, knees go back down. We're gonna reset our bear. Now we got to do the other side. So launch back, step forward, that other foot, the back foot, turning it to the side, carefully lifting up. Gonna take it all the way down, 1, and all the way back. I am making sure that I'm trying to fully extend that knee as I come up. So not a half, all the way. 3, 4, and 5. Hands are gonna go back. Rotate that foot back. Hand goes back, or foot goes back. And now to close out our face down circuit on the deck, we are gonna do a cobra first. So that's laying the knees on the deck. Gonna point those toes and stretch through the front, looking up to the sky if you can. Shoulders down and back. If this hurts your low back, stop. For some people, the cobra is not a good thing. And then you're gonna come back into child's pose. Stretch that out. All right, we're gonna flip over onto the other side and we are gonna do a little bit of core work. Once again, making sure I keep myself on track here. So As I mentioned, upper body strength can be really problematic for people who are, I'm not going to fall into the water, but let's say I have a kayak right here off my dock and I have to lift myself in. That requires a lot of upper body, so shoulder, tricep strength. So we're gonna work a little bit on that from the face up position. All right, so first we're gonna do tricep presses with our legs on the deck. So you're gonna lean back and I want you to push up. As you're doing this, I want you to squeeze the muscles back here. So that's your triceps. There's one. So I'm pushing my chest forward as I do this. 2, 3, 4, 5. Next one is going to do the same thing. We're gonna make it a little bit more challenging. Again, we're gonna go with 5. So hips are gonna come off the deck. Now, if this is way too hard and you're really feeling that a lot in the back of your leg, try doing it more with a bent knee. So here, drop down nice and slow, and then push back up. You should be able to feel that in those triceps. Drop slow, push back up. There's 3, 4, and 5. If you can do more than 5 or 6 of those, more power to you. All right, next one is gonna be an even more difficult, because we need to make it more difficult. It's gonna be a little bit more challenging for those of you who want the challenge. So now we're gonna be holding that reverse plank, and you're gonna be bringing the knee towards the chest, one at a time. So here's your hold. Bring the knee in. Make sure you're breathing. There's 2. Try not to lose count on these. 3, because they are challenging. 4, 4, 5, and 5. All right, we're gonna take a short break here. And I usually, as I'm breaking, I kind of make sure that I'm still working on mobility. So hip stuff, doing some stretches here, catching my breath. Those always get my heart rate up. And then we're gonna be doing some stuff that works specifically on the core region, so your core muscles. All right, so we're gonna start this sequence in a V-sit. And you wanna have your hands back here. So that's really gonna help you. If you are very advanced, you could probably hold your hands out here without touching, but I'm gonna keep my hands back here because I've got other exercises that involve the V-sit. All right, so legs are gonna start here. You're gonna alternate tapping a heel. There's 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, and 5. All right, now we're gonna start with our heels on the deck. The farther you lean back, the harder this is for the core. The core has to support. Now, if you're feeling this in your low back, don't sit as far back. You're still gonna get that strength work. So sit back a little bit, get a feel for it. Now you're gonna bring again, bringing the knee, alternating towards your chest. Find a rhythm for your breathing. It's really easy when you're doing this stuff to hold your breath because it requires some focus. You'll notice that I try not to do any of these movements with speed because the idea is to build the strength to move your body well. All right, we are gonna be doing a roll up and then another variation on a V-sit. So for the roll up exercise, you're gonna start laying flat out. And I like to add in something where I'm doing just sort of this helps again with shoulder mobility. So I'll probably do 3 of these between each of our roll ups. So I'm just I'm bringing my elbows down towards my sides, and then I'm doing a big reach up overhead. And then on the next one, I'm going to roll myself up to sitting and reach for my toes. Now for the core strength, it's the backward motion that you want to do this nice and slow, like you're trying to set each individual vertebrae of your spine back on the dock. And then shoulder mobility again, elbows down to the sides, reaching up. 2 more times. 1 more time. As your hands go up overhead, rolling yourself, peel yourself off the dock, reaching for the toes. And back down. Shoulder mobility. This is the best part. You just get to lay here and move your arms. As you reach up overhead, rolling back off. Get that stretch, reach for those toes a little bit more. See if you can deepen those stretches each time. Shoulders again. This really makes my shoulders feel good. Reaching, rolling, reach forward. And then nice and slow back down, working on that strength in the core. 1 more time. If you really struggle with getting your body up off the ground or your upper body when you're doing the roll-up part, go ahead and bend your knees and grab behind your thighs. That will help you come back to that seated position. All right, and then we're gonna do another variation on a V-sit. So for this one, you're gonna start in a V. So this is, again, a lot of core strength. If you struggle with the balance aspect of this, feel free to touch your toes to the floor, or you can even put your hands down. So we're out, bring it back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then last thing is just gonna be a little bit of lower back mobility. For some people, if you have low back problems, this can be great. For others, it's not, so make sure you feel it out. You're just gonna roll, keeping your feet on the floor, or at least a part of both feet on the floor. You're gonna roll from side to side. You also wanna try to keep your shoulders flat so that the rotation is happening through the lower half or the middle part of your spine. Like I said, if this does not feel good, don't do it. All right, so we are gonna do the same thing one more time, except this time I'm gonna get out there on my paddleboard and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do the whole sequence from there. So this is one of those things where I would probably only spend 25 to 30 minutes doing, so I'm not gonna do endless circuits of this. 2 times through is usually enough. I usually feel really warmed up. This is, for those of you who already kayak, paddleboard, canoe, this is actually a great way to warm up your body before going out for a paddle. I know a lot of times we don't feel like we need it, but This is actually really helpful, again, in that mobility and the strength that we need to get standing up on the board, getting into and out of the kayak, even loading your kayak onto your car. You need some of that strength. So, all right, we're gonna get set up for the water, and I'll see you again in a minute.
Armstrong has been a part of Medina for over 40 years. We run hundreds of miles of high-speed fiber, and we're not stopping. Your internet, television, and telephone connectivity is backed by a team of local technicians who are backed by their local office, who is backed by our 24/7 network operations team, as well as our 24/7 customer service center. Can the other guys say that? We didn't think so. Armstrong. Unmatched employees, unmatched technology, unmatched fiber network.
Okay, so we have, I have myself set up on the water with my board. I have 2 anchors out, so we may have to still do some repositioning. I'm gonna do the best I can to keep it to where you can see me and see what I'm doing. We are gonna do the same sequence first, the face down stuff, and then the face up stuff. When I'm out on the lake by myself, number 1, safety first. I'm on my pond. I have the lovely camera guy here to save me if I fall off my paddleboard and start drowning. But you should always have a PFD, a Coast Guard approved personal flotation device if you are out somewhere doing this. It's also really helpful to have an anchor so that if it is windy and you want to do your exercises on the board, it can kind of keep you stationary while you do your exercises. All right, so all of that fun stuff said, we are gonna start from standing, and what you'll notice is where I see people struggle with standing up on a paddleboard is, again, you gotta get your foot underneath you, and ideally you want your foot flat on the board. And a lot of people struggle because they don't have the mobility, they don't have the flexibility through the hamstrings and the calves where they can put their foot and then the other and then stand up from there, okay? So that's part of what we worked on the dock. So having that mobility and flexibility helps, and also the strength. So I'm gonna grab my paddle, and we're gonna do the first sequence where we're starting up and we're gonna go to the side and then back overhead. You'll find that this is much more challenging on the paddleboard because now you're dealing with an unstable surface. So there's a lot more balance involved at this point. There's 3. 4. And 5, push that way back there. All right, I'm actually gonna stow my paddleboard, or my paddle. So that's also really helpful. Make sure it doesn't fall off and you lose your paddle, no good. And now, depending on the stability of your paddleboard, this is where every paddleboard seems to be a little bit different. I bought these paddle boards. They're from Cruiser Sup. They're based in California. And I bought these because they are very, very stable. So I'm able to put camping gear on them. I'm able to do exercises on them. And I've gotten to the point now in my balance where I can step around on them without having that third point of contact. I'm gonna go towards the back of my board, and we're gonna start our walkouts. So again, you can see that the nose of my paddleboard's coming up a little bit. That makes it really unstable back here. So be very careful on yours if you've never tried this before. So we're gonna go down and then just kind of stand up, getting used to the feel for this first. We'll do one more. Always kind of keeping an eye on the horizon so you kind of know where your balance point is. And now we're gonna walk ourselves out. Walking back, standing up. We're gonna do that rotation again where you're hugging yourself. So rotation, woo! Back down to the board. Walk it out. Back again. Feel that stretch. Rotating. Reach down. Walk it out. Try to keep those legs as straight as you can. Standing up, rotation. Keep breathing. Last rotation. And then we're going to be doing the walkout with the T-plank variation and the push-up. Again, a lot more challenging on the paddleboard. I think this is the most challenging sequence. Lots of balance involved as you reach up into that T-plank. Hand goes back, sweeping over, pushing up, get a stretch. Back down, other side. Reaching up, hand back, swinging forward, push the hips forward, back down to the board, push up, all the way back to standing. Kind of roll the shoulders a little bit. I'm impressed with how stable my board is, or how I'm staying in the same position. Because even with the anchors, sometimes it doesn't go as planned. And it's not windy today, so we are very lucky. T-plank, hand behind, get that shoulder stretch. Swing forward, push the hips forward, down to the board. Hand back. Swing that arm forward and over. Back down to the board, little push up, back again. Always make sure you're stable before your hands leave that board. And again. Once you're on your board, you may decide you only want to do 3 of this sequence, but because I said I was going to do 5, I'm going to do 5 anyway. Swing forward, down, other side, T-plank, hand behind, push those hips forward, swing that arm overhead, back down, little push-up, walking back, feel the balance. I think I'm getting closer to the back side of my paddleboard here. Feeling less stable. Hands down. Always try to maintain control of the movements. This should not be about speed. Back to standing. We've got 1 more of those. Roll those shoulders a little bit. Back to your board. By the way, if you're on your paddleboard and you're watching this workout on your phone and it's out of your dry bag and you're trying to do this workout, I am not responsible for phones that get wet. It does happen. Swing forward, down to the paddleboard. Last little push up, and then walk those feet forward. So you want to come to the midpoint with your feet on your paddleboard. So for me, that's right around my grab handle on this. It's where I'm going to be most stable. I'm going to come back to standing, kind of give myself a little bit of a rest. And actually, see, I did that little part wrong. So I wasn't supposed to step forward until after the next. So we're gonna go back down. We're gonna step back. This will work just fine. And we're gonna do our down dog sequence. So we're starting in plank, pushing back into down dog. Feel that stretch in the calves. It's okay if you mess up. Back to plank, working on that core and on those shoulders. 3, 4, pushing back one more time. Hold, and now we're gonna march it out 5 times on each side. Try to push that heel onto your board. And now we're gonna do calf raises. So heels down and then raise. Push right onto those tippy toes. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you're gonna step forward. Needing a little break after all that. It's been a very humid summer. It's not hot today, but it is humid. All right, so once we take a little bit of a breather here, we're gonna be doing our stepping back to plank. And then we're gonna do, actually no, we're not, see? You probably wouldn't even know it if I didn't tell you I was messing up, but it's hot out here and I'm breathing hard. So we're gonna be doing our squat sequence. So again, this is mobility stuff. Hands are gonna go back to the board. You should be in the middle of your board at this point. And I'm gonna just kind of push the nose of my board just a little bit this way. Hopefully the view is okay. All right, hands are gonna go onto the board. You should be nice and stretched out at this point from all of those walkouts. Drop your rear end, look forward, coming back up. Try to get those knees as straight as possible, even if you have to come up onto your fingertips. There's 2. 3. 4. 5. All right, now we're gonna stand up and we're gonna do full squats, which is more based in the strength, but still working on that mobility. Remember to kind of hang out in the bottom of your squat, kind of push those elbows against those knees. Only go as low as your knees will allow, your hips, your ankles. If you practice this, and you practice just getting a little bit lower and lower each time you do a workout like this, you will eventually increase your range of motion. Again, nice and slow and intentional here. You can see that I'm not just dropping into my squat. All right, we're gonna hold it here for just a second and gonna reposition just a little bit. Got just a tad bit of wind that's wanting to push my nose to the right. All right, we are going to start our bear crawl sequence. So we're gonna put hands on the board, we're gonna step back into plank. Knees are gonna come to the board. So this is where you get to make sure that your hips are over your knees, your shoulders are over your wrists. Gonna hover those knees right over, about an inch over your board. Push back into that squatted position and forward over the wrist. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the next one, I'm gonna bring a foot forward. This is where it gets really fun on the paddleboard. I may start moving all over the place here. We're gonna go back, wind up again, other side. Back, wind up. Back. There's 4. 4, one more each way. 5. 5. Now you're gonna have to come back forward with the other leg and you're gonna hold here. Both hands on the board, shift that back foot so it's totally sideways. If you feel comfortable, you're gonna come to standing off of that board. Lunge, keep the trailing legs straight, hands on the board. There's 1. Working on quad strength and flexibility through the inner thigh. One more. And then we're going to be reaching back towards the board. Rotate that back foot. Step back. Get back into your bear crawl position. Back. Other foot comes forward. Stabilize. Shift that back foot on your board. Come to standing. You will find that you are probably far less stable with one foot forward than the other. This is my bad foot. All right, there's 1. I promised the camera guy that I would not go in with his mic on, so we're gonna try not to take a dive. There's 4. Last one. 5. All right, hands to the board, shift that foot around, get back behind you. We're gonna come into our cobra pose. So toes are out and pointed, shoulders go backwards. Feel that stretch through the front. Again, if this does not feel good for your low back, you probably shouldn't do it, or you can do a more modified version where you're on the board more like this. And then from here, coming back onto the knees, get the knees a little wider, sit back into child's pose, take a couple deep breaths. All right, now we're gonna reset. We're just gonna kind of flip over. Again, mobility becomes very important when you're going from on your knees to a seated position on the board. So if you don't have great strength or mobility, this can be very difficult, but that's why we're working on these things. All right, gonna reposition just a smidge. And we're gonna come to that seated position. I'm gonna make sure I've got my stuff ready so that I keep myself on track. We've only got a little bit to go now, so we're gonna do our seated triceps. So we're gonna start with lower body's gonna stay on the board, and you're just gonna put your hands behind you and you're gonna drop down to your elbows, and then I want you to push up and push the chest forward, which is gonna force you to really squeeze those triceps. So down, push forward. There's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now comes the hard ones. All right, so we're gonna be doing these from a full reverse plank. So nice and slow. Again, if this is too hard for you, just do the ones we were just doing. So full plank, all the way to the board, relax for a second, push all the way back up. You'll also feel that this works the back of the legs. So sometimes you might get a cramp. So just kind of stop for a second. Almost. I can really feel the burn here. One more. And if you were to do a side-by-side of the ones that I did on the dock with the ones I just did, you would notice how much more difficult it is for me to hold my form because it's so much more difficult on this unstable surface. I'm talking a lot because it gives me a break. All right, back to your straight arm plank, your reverse plank. You are going to hold and bring the knee. So again with this, if this is too hard, keep the knees bent. It's a little bit easier that way. Shooting for 5 here. There's 4, 4, 5, and 5. Woo! Again, I'm usually, if I'm letting myself rest, I'm also still doing some mobility work. So, and I'm kind of letting my upper body rest a little bit. And then we're gonna work on that core strength now. So with our V sits. So if you remember for this one, you're gonna start with your feet in the air, and then you're gonna alternate tapping a heel down. So it'll be heel down, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Give yourself a short little break here. And then we're gonna do kind of the opposite. Heels are gonna start on the board. No hand hold behind unless you absolutely need to. Set yourself up. The farther back you are, the more core work you're gonna get. Bring a knee forward or towards your chest. Good. Guess that would be backward. 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, and 5. I'm gonna lay it all the way back. Yay, we're not done yet though. So this is the one, elbows. You may have to kind of move your paddle a little bit out of the way. Elbows are gonna come in and then reaching up. Gonna do that 3 times. It's the only thing we're really doing 3 for. 1 more. There are buzzards circling over me. As you reach up on that last one there, you're gonna peel yourself off your board. Reach for those toes, even grab the toes a little bit if you can, or grab the ankles, pull forward. Nice and slow back down. More shoulder mobility. And rolling it back up. A little bit farther. And back. More shoulders. If this doesn't feel good to your shoulders, you can always just let your arms hang wherever it feels best, wherever you're getting a stretch. Always be mindful of your body. Listen to it. If it's telling you not to do something. We're getting there. Really feel into that stretch. rolling up. Reach forward. I'm trying to get more into that stretch. I really struggle with this stretch, that straight leg, reaching for the toes. Last time. And then we just got our hip rolls. Roll yourself up. Make this last one a good one. Nice big stretch. Hold this stretch for just a second. Let that stretch happen. Nice and slow back down. Don't mess up this last rep. The last rep of the last set is always the most important one. All right, bringing the knees, bend the knees and bring your heels closer into you. On your paddleboard, again, there's a balance thing, so kind of be aware that as you drop your knees to the side into that roll, your paddleboard is gonna wanna roll to that side. So kind of be a little slow and intentional with this so you don't roll right off the side unless you want to. It's about hot enough right now that I'm about ready to roll off. Again, keep the shoulders, try to keep them flat on your board. Feel that nice spinal stretch. Same thing with this one though. If that rotation through the spine does not feel good, this is probably not something that you should be doing. This is something that should definitely feel good. It should loosen up your low back, your sacrum. Like I feel like I could do this all day long. All right. So that is our paddleboard mobility and strength workout for the day. I'd love to hear from you if you end up trying this, or even if you have suggestions. If you're a paddler, I'd love to hear from you with your questions about strength, flexibility, or if there's something that some type of a mobility routine that you do, I'd love to hear all about it. So you can get me at kellybailey1980@gmail.com or my website, www.kellybailey.fit. Thanks for exercising with me.